I am writing this down because silence makes things worse. When I don't write, I start listening again. I worked at a radio relay station, so remote that even the maps treated it as a suggestion. One concrete building, one steel mast, one generator shed, and a road that only existed because it had been driven on often enough to leave scars in the ground. My job was simple: keep the signal clean, log disturbances, replace parts when they failed, and report anything unusual. Mostly there was nothing: wind, static, snow pressing itself against the walls until the building groaned like an old man turning in bed. I was alone there for weeks at a time. That mattered. The first signal came in late at night. Not loud, not dramatic, just wrong. At first, I thought it was bleed-through, atmospheric interference, solar noise, maybe a foreign broadcast bouncing the wrong way. It had no carrier I recognized, no call sign, no structure that made sense. It wasn't even a voice, not exactly, more like pacing, bursts, pauses, repetition that felt intentional without being readable. I logged it: frequency, time, duration, signal strength, everything by the book. In the morning, I sent the report up the chain. The reply came back 2 days later, stamped and dry. No anomaly confirmed, equipment variance, continue duties. That should have been the end of it. It was easy to forget. Routine scrapes things smooth. The relay hummed, the generator coughed, snow fell. The world stayed large and empty and uninterested in me. 3 weeks passed. The second signal arrived during a storm. The wind was so loud it shook dust from the ceiling beams. The mast outside screamed as ice formed on the cables. I almost didn't notice the signal at first, just another line wobbling on the display. Then it stabilized. Same frequency, same pattern, but this time there was something else riding underneath it. A voice. Not distorted the way voices usually are over bad connections, not stretched or warped, just flat, close, as if the microphone was held too near a mouth that wasn't bothering to shape words properly. I remember thinking very calmly, this shouldn't be possible. The voice didn't identify itself. It didn't greet anyone. It didn't even sound like it expected a reply. It said,
"If this is being received, you are closer than you think."
There was a pause, long enough that I wondered if I had imagined it. Then,
"Do not report this again."
the signal cut cleanly. No fade, no noise. I sat there for a long time with my hands on the desk, listening to the empty band. I told myself it was a prank, a coincidence, someone testing equipment they weren't supposed to be using. I told myself many things. I did not file a report. That was my first mistake. After that, I began to notice things I hadn't before. Small discrepancies, a low rhythmic vibration at certain hours that didn't match the generator cycle, a directionality to the interference, always strongest when the antenna was angled northeast toward a stretch of tundra that nothing ever came from. No towns, no roads, no reason for a signal to originate there. I started taking notes for myself, not official logs, personal ones, distances, bearings, strength over time. I convinced myself I was being thorough, not curious. The third transmission came during daylight. That frightened me more than the others. It was shorter, clearer.
"This relay is not part of the network. It is an echo.
I shut the receiver down immediately, pulled the power myself, sat in silence while the storm outside finished tearing itself apart. I didn't sleep that night. 2 days later, I packed a bag. I told myself I was only going to confirm my measurements, that I needed to rule out terrain reflection, old military hardware, forgotten infrastructure, that if I could point to something physical, something explainable, I could stop thinking about the voice. I followed the bearing on foot. The snow was deep, unbroken, no tracks but mine. After a few hours, I began to smell something that didn't belong out there. Warm metal, ozone, oil. The ground changed first, hard-packed, then scarred, then cleared. The structure was half buried in a shallow valley, poured concrete the color of old bone. No markings, no signs, just a recessed entrance, its door sealed with a wheel lock that had been turned recently. Snow around it had melted and refrozen, leaving a glassy crust that reflected the sky. It looked abandoned. That was my second mistake, believing appearances mattered. I didn't force the door, it was already unlocked. Inside, the air was warm and dry, too dry. The lights came on automatically, buzzing faintly as if surprised to be used. The corridor sloped downward at an angle shallow enough to be reassuring. I stepped inside because everything about it suggested procedure, maintenance, routine, a place designed for people who were supposed to be there. The door closed behind me without sound. I didn't panic then, not yet. I remember thinking I would just walk back out, report what I'd found, and let someone else decide what it meant. But the corridor kept going, and the radio in my pack, powered off, disconnected, began to hum. That is where this entry ends. I am writing the rest from inside, and the signal is still active.